Movie thoughts. A Hologram for the King, starring Tom Hanks as Alan Clay, who is a salesperson who goes to Saudi Arabia to sell something to a king. Guess what that something is? It's a hologram. But really, that's just a side plot to the story. This story is actually a light-hearted comedy, drama. Also, it's got a bit of romance in the third act. I don't want to call it a romantic comedy because the main story isn't about the romance. It's not about that. The main story is kind of about Alan's worries and doubts and how he needs a situation to get his oomph back. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much the story. There are about 4 or 5 main plot points. Essentially what happens through it is that he meets a number of different characters that some of who don't really fit well into this story and gets into a bunch of different situations, I guess. It's very generic and very... I don't want to say boring. That sounds harsh. It was very boring. Basically, the beginning, the first half an hour is very slow and very awkward to get into. Like, the opening shot actually is a dream sequence, and there's a number of those. There's a number of those in the film. There's a number of dream sequences and flashbacks and visions. Okay, so dream sequences can get very tiring and very boring, and so can flashbacks, and so can all that sort of thing. It's a technique that you need to use from different points of view, and at times these visions, these dreams, especially at the beginning, do get repetitive and do get boring, but at the same time, as terms of comedy goes, the first opening dream, I guess, that's actually kind of fun. It's kind of funny, and visually there are a few things in there that's like, oh yeah, that's kind of nice to look at. There's a one shot right at the beginning, and it's actually, now thinking about it, that's probably just to show off the fact, hey, we've done a one shot, look at us. But it has a bit of visual comedy in. When I'm saying visual comedy, I don't mean people falling off a chair. And my god, falling off a chair, Alan Clay must have a problem with that because he does that 3 times in the film. Not once, not twice, but 3 times he falls off a chair. 3 times. And that's annoying. Not that type of visual comedy. What I mean is like shots. Edgar Wright visual comedy. Now, I'm not saying that there is Edgar Wright visual comedy in this. I'm saying that there is comedy that lends itself to try and emulate and push a little bit more of what comedy is. And I'm actually all for that. I thought that was good. I don't think they work, but I would rather them try that than have just dialogue and comedy, which is pretty much what the rest of the film is. Pretty much most of this film is set in either cars or a tent, a doctor's room, and that's pretty much it. That's pretty much where the film goes, and I was disappointed. I've got to admit with that, because you go to Saudi Arabia, I want to see Saudi Arabia. I don't want to see Tom Hanks sitting in a car with, I think his name was Youssef? Yeah, I think he's in the car with Youssef about 4 or 5 times. Youssef is a cab driver. Well, effectively a cab driver. He becomes Tom Hanks' personal driver because Alan. He's Tom Hanks in this. He's not really a character, to be fair. Because Alan sleeps in and misses his taxi to his job site, which doesn't actually make any sense now I come to think about it, because why didn't he just get a taxi in the first place? But no, he hired a personal driver and a personal car. That's kind of weird. So yeah, it's a slow burner. The only character development that you really get from Tom Hanks is in the flashbacks, which is why I said earlier that it's not necessarily a bad thing that they have these flashbacks in there. I thought it was a fairly nice way to show a little bit of character traits of the character. What I didn't like about it, and there's quite a bit, it doesn't really do much. The story doesn't really go anywhere. There's a situation where they need to get all this equipment to work to show this idea to the prince, and they're waiting for the prince to, not the prince, the king. Ha. Yeah, I've even forgotten the name of the film. It's in the title's in the description, man. Jesus Christ, I'm dumb. Yeah, they need all this equipment setting up to show something to the king. And Alan needs the courage to go and basically ask for this equipment. And he gets the courage, and then he asks for it. And then he gets the equipment. That's pretty much the first hour and a half of the film. And then the third act, after he's done the pitch, that's the romance bit. That's literally how separate the storylines are in this film. The romance bit has nothing to do with the hologram for the king, and then Yusef has his own background, and that's also romance as well, actually. So maybe it is a romantic comedy without any romance in. Maybe. He's got a problem that he needs to fix, and Alan doesn't really have any involvement in it, but that storyline's there, and you never see it. You just see everything from Alan's point of view, but it's solved in the end. Oh, that's a spoiler. Those are pretty much my thoughts. Oh, I probably should mention that it's based on a book. I didn't know that going into it, but by the time it got to the credits, I knew, because it was in the credits. I don't know what I'm trying to get from that point. Anyway, it's based on a book. I have no idea what the book's about. I'm not sure who it's wrote by. I think it was Dave Edders? Edders. Dave Edders. That's what it said. Dave Edders in the title things. Yeah, you see, I can remember things. I'm useful. So really the only good thing about this film is Tom Hanks, and Tom Hanks's performance when he's not sleeping and snoring and falling off chairs is actually really good. I think that this film would actually do better as a drama rather than trying to be a comedy and not having as much comedic elements in there, and not trying to, because the comedy feels forced. That's the problem. The comedy feels really forced. Like Yusef's character's actually a really cool, interesting character, and his character was wasted because he was just essentially I've got to say this. This is Americans. This is Americans at their prime. They presume about Saudi Arabia, and they've got like a very stereotypical Saudi Arabian character in the form of Yusef come in as the cab driver and is effectively very stereotypically Saudi Arabian. I mean, that's all I can do. But he's also got the comic relief, or is trying. But it all feels very forced, and it all feels very, let's do this, instead of letting things gel together nicely. That is a big problem with this film. Overall, like I said, probably would have landed itself better as a drama. I was actually I was invested in Alan's story, and there is a scare. He has this lump on his back, and I guess the writers were trying to make that a metaphor for his baggage that he is carrying around with him, and he needs to get rid of that baggage to be successful in his later life. And I like that. And he also has really good moments where he is thinking back on his daughter, and like the moments there. What aren't good moments with his daughter is the constant email. I'm not kidding you. Email is massive in this film, and it is boring to watch. What can I say? It's an American film. Like, this is the sort of thing that's trying to be pumped out quite a lot. I mean, okay, it's not a bad film. It's not bad. It isn't. It's just a little bit messy in places, and it doesn't quite know what it is. That's my main problem with it, is the fact that it is messy and it doesn't know what it is and what it wants to do. Having said that, I did kind of enjoy it. I did find myself sat there, and I didn't feel that it went on too long, although I think the third act was a bit unnecessary. They didn't really need that. It kind of worked for me. So those are my thoughts for A Hologram of a King. I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10. I very nearly said 6 out of 5 there. That's wrong. It's not 6 out of 5. It's 6 out of 10. There we go. So yeah, that's pretty much the film. Anyway, guys, thank you very much. If you like this, let me know in the comments below. Any more self-advertising stuff? Oh, I might be streaming tonight. There you go. That doesn't mean anything to you guys, but it does to me. Hey, anyway, hope you had a good one. Tell me about films that are out in the cinema that you've seen. I don't know. Tell me, don't tell me anything. Just have a good life. Now I'm going morbid. You know, that's not how you end a video. Until next time, guys.
You may find yourself living in your garden shack, and you may find yourself not at home in your home, and you may find yourself looking for your large automobile. And you may find yourself without a beautiful house, without a beautiful wife. And you may ask yourself, well, how did I get here?
Letting the days go by.
Let the water hold me down.
Letting the days go by.
Water flowing underground.
Into the blue again.
After the money's gone.
Once in a lifetime.
Water flowing underground. Same as it ever was. Same as it ever was. Same as it ever was. Same as it ever was.
Now, why couldn't the film have more of that?